Hey there, I'm Lee Rowley, and this is Lee After Dark. Why? Because there's more to being a business leader than just business. Each episode, one brave entrepreneur ejects the elevator pitch and just gets real. Today, I'd like to welcome John Thor. Why did I not ask you how to pronounce your last name before we started this?
I was kind of thinking the same, but I was very excited to hear you try.
I'm on the spot now. I would say Sigurðsson.
Very close, a lot closer than most people. It's Sigurleifsson.
Okay. I'm going to take your word for it.
Well,
How are you today? Can we just go John? Do you John Thor?
I'm fine with either John or John Thor. They're both my name. Just one's
Okay.
one's double the length.
Very good. Okay. Well, John Thor. We'll go with that, and then hopefully you'll not notice that I still can't pronounce your last name worth a darn.
That's
But
fine.
it's okay. How are you today?
I'm very well. I've had a pretty excellent week. A very
Great.
busy one, but very fun. Meeting a lot of different people and doing things that will be off limits for the duration of this podcast, seeing as I've been doing a lot of the W word.
You're doing a fantastic job. So you already know the rules, but I have to say them anyway. For the next 20 minutes, we can talk about anything you want except your business. Afterward, you'll have up to 5 minutes to pitch all you want. If you mention your business during the interview, you'll lose 1 minute per infraction. I'm going to be real serious about this too. So are we ready?
I'm ready.
Very good. Let me start the clock. And what do you want to get into for the next 20 minutes?
So I actually thought we'd start with traveling and going to
Okay.
different countries. So I don't know how much you've traveled, but it's interesting. I was speaking to some school children as part of a charity that I met not too long ago here in the UK, and one of the kids that the charity was working with asked me, because they knew that I've lived in 4 different countries, and they sort of asked what I found most enriching or exciting about being in different countries. And the reason why I kind of want to bring that up is knowing about the US and how it's basically 50 different countries combined into one, and I guess divided or put together by the same language, depending on how you look at it. So I'm wondering what, I guess, your point of view is as well on this, but what I've found is that I find more differences within cultures than between them.
I would say that's definitely true. And I do have a more limited experience. But just as you say, it is kind of like 50 different countries here. And even, beyond that, there's rural and urban.
Yeah.
Even in, where I'm in Ohio, which is a state that pretty much nobody cares about unless you're a college football fan. But, still it's that same dynamic is there. It's just even within that, there's really not much of a commonality. But when we have traveled, we have met people from different backgrounds, from different experiences, whose lives are shaped completely differently, and we find those common bonds. Whereas in our own backyards, as we say here, not so much.
Yeah, and it's funny as well. Just if it makes you feel better, when I was living in the States, I played the sort of, how many states can you name in 5 minutes or something, game that I don't know if Friends popularized it, but growing up in a place where Friends was one of the most prominent figures of American society that we got to know, I heard of it from there. And then when I was living there, someone was like, okay, I'm curious. Pitted me against someone who'd lived in Florida their whole lives and never left Florida. And funnily enough, no one who played that game forgot about Ohio. So at least you were in some people's minds.
Well, here's the thing. Half of the people in Florida are Ohioans.
Oh, okay. Fair
pretty
enough.
much, because like when the leaves start falling, we're just all like, you know what, enough of this. Mm-mm. We're going 1,000 miles south where where we're not shoveling snow for the next 6 months. So that's the big problem with Florida is it's basically South Ohio.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought that the biggest problem about Florida was either, depending on which news you read, either Florida Man and Florida Man's incessant terrorizing of their community, or the gators.
You would think that the
Yeah.
gators were just a persistent threat, wouldn't you?
Well, it's funny because when I moved there, there was this sign by a lake just outside my apartment which said, "Please do not disturb or feed the alligators." And I thought it was a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to someone, like, man, they've got this sign. And I was kind of laughing about it. And the person was like, nah, man, that's a body of water in Florida. There's gators. There's going to be gators. So it's, but at the same time, like I never really, I think I saw one in there once, but I went to the Everglades a couple of times and brought an English friend of mine along once. And we were taking photos of them and trying to, keep our distance. We were told that as long as we stayed 6 feet away, we could run. Any closer than that, and no amount of running will help you. But my friend decided to be foolish/brave, depending on how you look at it. And he saw an alligator with its back to us, or well, tail to us, I guess would be the more accurate description. And he was like, "How do you think it would react if I poke it with a stick?" And a good friend would have probably said, "Dude, like, stay away. You're gonna get killed." But being the great friend I am, I went, "Let me take a step back. I'll film it." Um, and I've got this great video of him approaching the alligator ever so slowly, reaching his hand out, and then the alligator just slightly tipped its tail, and he threw the stick and ran.
Oh, nice. Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? I have to commit that to memory that what was it you said? Let me take a step back and I'll film it. I have officially dubbed that the gentleman's version of hold my beer.
Well, to be fair, I don't know. It seemed too good of an opportunity to see
Yeah.
something funny. Looking back, I realized if it would have gone horribly wrong, I probably wouldn't have felt great about it.
No.
But at least I would have had evidence that I didn't murder him, even though I probably had the means, but I didn't really have motive. So,
Well, it's good to have your bases covered anyway, right?
absolutely, yeah. It's a big part of the reason I like doing podcasts. It proves with a timestamp where I am at any given moment in time.
That's right.
Yeah, the only person whose alibi is proven through serial podcasting.
The entire internet knows about your whereabouts. In my case, like all 6 of them, like, yep,
Yeah.
present and accounted for.
Yeah, it's like if Gary V ever gets accused of a crime, he can just go, no, check the archives.
Yeah, that's true. He's got somebody following him around 24 hours a day, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, well, hey, somebody's got to do it. So.
Absolutely.
Well, one thing that doesn't surprise me is to learn that you are very active in theater, music, and writing. It's obvious that you're a highly creative individual,
Thank you.
and I deeply appreciate that about people. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, for sure. So, basically, I'll frame this story in the way that when I was moving away from Iceland originally, I was going through all of my stuff. And once you've lived in a place for a while, you accumulate a lot of, and I believe the professional term is a lot of crap that you just never thought you'd need again. And but you somehow didn't throw it away. And when I was moving, I found a lot of old school stuff. And I found 2 projects that I'd done, both of which were like, where do you see yourself in your 30s or 40s or something? One that I did when I was like 6 years old, one that I did when I was 16. And there were only 3 commonalities between the 2. One of them was that I was playing music, and both of them. one of them was that I lived somewhere else than Iceland, and the third was that I was married. And the 6-year-old one kind of paints a picture of a very paranoid child, because I was basically just wondering, what if the aliens have come at that point, and what if our languages don't have a common point of reference for us to be able to communicate? So basically, Denis Villeneuve built Arrival based on my childhood fears. So
Oh,
when I
wow.
saw that in the cinema, I was like, this feels oddly targeted towards me, but I love it. um, but no, so like even then, I didn't start playing music until I was about 14, 15.
Okay.
But apparently there was some part of me, even at 6, that just knew I had to do that at some point. And when I started playing, it was one of those things where I just knew there was no turning back. I started writing, I started playing in bands, started playing on stage. And even now, if I'm at home just doing something, if I start feeling a bit stressed or something, my guitar is never far away. And one of the quickest ways for me to just feel a bit centered is just reach out for my guitar and play for 4 or 5 minutes, or even got an electric piano not too long ago and just playing a bit on that. But really, my passion for it, and because you mentioned the theater and writing as well, I think what combines all of it is that my passion for it isn't just as a performer, but as a creator. So I love putting something together and seeing it come to life. And whether that's writing a play and seeing people perform it in front of me, or being a part of it and seeing it all come together, that creative process just gives me so much. But at the same time, I've found that I approach it a lot differently from most people that I've worked with, which in some ways is really good, because I realize that being a creative person, you want to stand out. But at the same time, it has admittedly caused some friction in terms of difficulty in finding people that sort of exist on that same wavelength and play along with where you want to go.
Okay. Do you find that increases as what you do becomes more you?
Yeah, so I definitely say that, because like over a couple of years, I was in a few different bands sort of over the last maybe 6 years that I was in Iceland. And the first one that I was in that was sort of serious, I started when I was probably about 18, 19. And we started playing, and we were very much of the mind that there's no like band leader, there's no one person that writes. We're all gonna just jam together in a garage until the songs happen. And anyone listening who's ever been in a band that writes like that, I feel for you. I truly feel for you, because that is the slowest damn process that I've ever been part of. Like, it was great. I love jamming. I love the sort of free flow, almost jazzy feel of just getting into a room and expecting everyone to know where you're taking the riff that you're playing.
Mm.
And then, if coincidentally they figure it out, you're like, man, we're the best dudes in the world. We're amazing. But writing like that is very, very time consuming. So, like, in stark contrast to that, when that broke up, I actually started writing on my own before I started putting anything else together, and effectively wrote an album's worth of material, and then just went to people and went, would you like to join a band that already has songs written and you just kind of have to learn them? Which I know sounds super dictatorial, I guess. A bit like a control freak. But the thing is, I thought, okay, at least if I'm honest about it up front and just approach people saying, this is what I want to do, I'll
Right.
listen to feedback. I'll listen to, if you think something should change, especially for your instrument, because if you know it better than I do, obviously I'll take that into consideration. But I think just having been a part of something that was slowed down by wanting to take a specific method, even when that was proved to be slow, it just irritated me, because I remember being asked by people, oh, when are you going to play a gig? When are you going to be there or there? It's like, well, once we figure out our shit and actually get it together and write a couple more songs and, are
Right.
able to play them on stage. So being tired of that, it just kind of made me want to go, right, here are some songs, let's learn them, let's take them to the stage and play.
Right.
It's not as simple as that, though, as anyone, again, listening who's ever been in a band will know. It's an endless series of, I believe, Chris Story described being in a band as the most friction-filled polyamorous relationship. um, because you've basically got, for that band, there was 6 of us. So you needed 6 people to be on the same page about when we practiced, in which direction we wanted to go, when we were going to play live. Everyone had to have approximately the same amount of ambition so that everyone got up to speed at the same time. And if you've ever just had to talk to one person about what to eat tonight, imagine doing that with 6 people, but across like 40 different variables. It's and when there's no money involved as well, you kind of just have to rely on people doing it out of passion, interest, the kindness of their heart, or just a bit of pity for poor old John, who hasn't had a band workout in years.
I can certainly relate. Yeah, absolutely. I believe it or not, I can relate. I was once a vocalist for a death metal band.
Yeah.
At the way back in the late '80s. So yeah, that's a hard thing, and I can certainly relate to what you're saying about them being a grinding polyamorous relationship.
Yeah.
It should certainly get that way. You bond with people who are your closest friends, who you would occasionally love to set on fire.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's funny because, like, especially if you're playing something that requires you to be quite technically proficient, and especially with something like, you mentioned you were in a death metal band. If you look at some of the death metal bands going today that have these incredible musicians playing like fretless bass with 6 strings and 8-string guitars. I actually have an 8-string guitar next to me here, so and these drummers that need to play blast beats at 260 beats per minute, and the fact that then you lose a member and you have to find someone that not only wants to play that specific niche of music, but is capable of it and isn't already in about 8 different bands and goes, oh yeah, I can play like every other Saturday between 2 and 3. So finding people that are dedicated, have the time and are willing to put the effort in is really difficult, because it's effectively like going out into the world and asking who's willing to give up a load of their time and energy for something that, let's be honest, when you're playing extreme music or experimental music, is probably never gonna make you real money.
Right. It becomes more about the process of the art. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember, I'm not sure if you've seen, there's a documentary by Michael Dafferney from a band called Car Bomb, which is called Why You Do This. And he made this documentary while touring with his band Car Bomb just before they released their second album. And he was basically just showing the grind that it is to be like a small niche band trying to make ends meet. And it basically just follows them playing to half empty rooms across the US, crashing on people's floors, coming back in debt to enter into dead-end jobs because they don't want to start a career because they'll have to leave those anyway next time they go on tour.
Sure.
And I remember seeing that and thinking, this is exactly not what I want to do. And because I, like so many others, grew up thinking, oh, I'd love to tour, be in a band with a few of my friends, play to people all over the world. And after having tried, quite a bit of, driving around, playing and everything, and as well, but I never got to the point where I was, I guess, putting my life on hold for it. And a big reason why I never went down that route was that documentary, as well as an article I saw where this band was basically explaining why they pushed their merch so much when they play live. And they were like, well, we're like 10 dudes with, the merch guy and the sound guy and everything. And we've got like $50 to $60 between us to feed ourselves for the day. And they were saying, you tour, but you're not really traveling. You're not seeing the sights. You're eating at gas stations and driving through the night and hoping no one falls asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
And the glamour wore off real quick when you start to read into that. And I think as well, with me growing up in the 90s and seeing the music industry changed so massively around sort of turn of the century, to use a very loaded and sort of verbose sounding term. Um, it it showed me that it was something that I'd always want to do, but I'd probably never want to do as a profession.
Completely understand. And, you don't have to
No.
necessarily. These days we have enough options that it's possible to be known as more than one thing, and it works perfectly fine.
Oh, absolutely.
Do that. Well, good grief, we've sailed past the 20-minute mark, and I feel like, and we go. I'd like to do John Thor part 2 start time,
Yeah.
because I feel like we've got another a lot more that we could cover in another episode. So if you want to come back, I'd love to hear more. We barely scratched the surface, and you're fascinating to listen to, and absolutely. And so I know the audience is going to want you back anyway. So if that's a good place to stop for now until the return of John Thor. That's what I'm going to call it now. I'm a man of my words, so I want to make sure you have 5 minutes to talk about your business, whatever you want. How can people get in touch with you? The floor is yours.
Oh, so first of all, I'll definitely want to come back. I didn't realize we'd already flown through the 20 minutes, but you know what they say, talk about death metal and time flies.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a saying. If anyone's doubting that, it is from now. I'll add it into Urban Dictionary. It's
Good
fine.
deal. Good deal. Thank you for that.
So, well, from a business point of view, so similar to my personal life, I do a lot of different stuff. So I kind of split it into 2 sides. So one of my sides is my freelancing. So I do sales coaching and consultancy, helping businesses, especially startups and sort of small to medium-sized businesses, figure out their sales and marketing strategies. And I'm a public speaker. I speak about a wide variety of topics. I've done a TED talk on social politics and the idea of demonetization of basic necessities, but I've also talked about sales, goal setting, leadership. And I've actually started doing more and more content for others. So I've always been passionate about filmmaking, and I do a lot of video myself. So I shoot it, I edit it, and I've been approached by more and more people about doing that for them, which silly me didn't think of actually marketing that. So that's not even on my website. And after a few companies started talking to me about it, I was like, I think I need to go home and update my website, maybe add a page that says content. But the other side of things is I'm doing this both because I love it and also alongside a startup that I'm super passionate about that I founded with 3 other people called Syzygy. It's an AI startup focused on empowering job seekers with actionable insight and make job seeking, to be perfectly frank, less of a horrifying mess that it is right now. So many people are getting ghosted, not getting the insight they need. And we've built an AI that can not only help you make your CV better, but help you understand where are people looking when they look at your CV, activity tracking on recruiters. There's geolocation-based market value information, a load of different things. We're about to go into open beta, so you can keep an eye on that. And to your last point, where people can get a hold of me. So the easiest way to keep up to date with what I'm doing is LinkedIn. But I am also on Instagram, and I've got a business page on Facebook, which I'm very bad at keeping up to date because I tend to just hang out on LinkedIn much more.
Very good. And we'll have that link and any other links you want to put in the show notes. So when we publish this episode, people can come directly and get in touch with you from there.
Perfect.
Very good. Any parting words?
Yes. So if you've ever felt like you need to fit in, just remember that you should never fit in. You should always stand out.
That is right. And you do that very well. And I may congratulate you on a bow tie well worn. That is absolutely fabulous, my friend. And he did it with the flower print shirt, which I don't have the cojones to pull off. So, mad props to you, and figuratively, hats off. Not really, because there's a glare. Anyway, we are out of time that if you found Lee After Dark more entertaining and relevant than most of the dreck out there, subscribe to the Lee After Dark YouTube channel. And now, get Lee After Dark in your pants. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Stitcher, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and who the heck knows where else. So you can enjoy us wherever you stick your phone. Until next time, this is Lee Rully with my new friend, John Thor. Be present and be well.